Chapter 5:16. With these 7 immortal ascension boundary masters behind him, no matter how powerful Yang Kai was, it would be impossible for him to catch up. Moreover, War City was already in sight, only a few hundred kilometers away. Although Xiangchu was helpless, he could only come up with this idea to delay Yang Kai's pace. When the 7 masters heard Xiangchu's words, all of them wore bitter expressions, but they quickly regained their composure and nodded. "Young Lord can rest assured, even if we have to risk our lives, we will stop him." Xiangchu nodded firmly. "Good, everyone be careful, don't be careless." "Understood." Saying so, the 7 immortal ascension boundary masters from the Xiang and Nen families suddenly stopped, turned around, and stared behind them. Xiangchu and Nansheng led the remaining group of people and continued to flee without looking back. Seeing the 7 masters stop, Yang Kai's expression became cold, sweeping the area in front of him with his divine sense, immediately understanding their cultivation and strength, causing a look of impatience to appear on his face. "Ninth young lord, if you want to catch up with our young master, you'll have to pass through this old master first," one of the 7 masters shouted. The 7 of them simultaneously circulated their yuan qi, releasing a burst of brilliance from their martial skills and artifacts as they fiercely attacked Yang Kai. They didn't intend to say anything to Yang Kai, but now that things had developed to this point, they could only wait and see. "Just with you lot?" Yang Kai laughed wildly as the mysterious grade low-rank bone shield appeared in his hand, blocking in front of him as he rushed forward to meet the storm of attacks. Hong hong hong. A series of loud bangs rang out as a violent wave of energy surged out. Every collision caused Yang Kai's pace to falter slightly, but the giant mouth in the middle of the bone shield swallowed up all of these energy waves. As this energy was swallowed up, the surface area of the bone shield also began to expand at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a round of attacks, Yang Kai remained unscathed, but his speed had been slowed down. "Scatter!" Knowing the mysteries of the bone shield, none of the 7 masters dared to remain in place, so with a shout, they scattered in all directions. The giant mouth on the bone shield suddenly emitted a burst of light as the incomparably sharp bone spikes sticking out of it began to clatter. Qua. The energy that had just been swallowed up was all returned. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The bone spikes on the edge of the bone shield were also released, bringing out streaks of light as they attacked the 7 people. The 7 of them were already prepared, summoning defensive artifacts to protect themselves as they hurriedly dodged. After a series of clashes, the 7 of them avoided the attacks from the bone shields. They also used various methods to block the bone spikes. Although they were battered and exhausted, they were not injured. The bone shield was indeed powerful. Without an immortal ascension boundary 8th stage cultivator, it was impossible to break its defenses. However, if he specifically targeted the characteristics of the bone shield, it would be very difficult to make it play its role. After all, secret treasures were dead, while humans were alive. On top of that, these 7 people didn't have any intention of fighting against Yang Kai, they just wanted to delay him. As long as they could delay him for a cup of tea worth of time, with Nansheng and Xiangchu's speed, they would be able to safely return to War City and return to Yang Kai's compound. Seeing their plan succeed, the 7 people's expressions became excited, suddenly realizing that Yang Kai wasn't as terrifying as they had imagined. Perhaps he was indeed invincible among cultivators in the same realm, even capable of fighting immortal ascension boundary masters, but he was only able to slaughter hundreds of people at once by relying on external forces. Once there was no external force to support him, no matter how powerful he was, there was a limit to his strength. Perhaps this time, not only would they be able to delay him, they could even take advantage of the fact that there was no master around to protect him and capture him. With this idea in mind, the 7 people became extremely excited, their originally somewhat lacking confidence instantly replaced by a high fighting spirit. Without any hesitation, a series of soul skills were launched towards Yang Kai, the spiritual energy from all directions intertwining and wrapping around Yang Kai like a spider web. Standing at the center of this gathering of spiritual energy, Yang Kai slowly shook his head, a look of disdain filling his face. Ever since he had refined the essence of the soul-type evil spirit in the evil cavern, The one thing he was least afraid of was divine sense attacks. In front of him, the 7 people's divine sense attacks were like a vast ocean compared to a stream, unable to shake him at all. On the contrary, Yang Kai's sudden burst of spiritual energy caused these people's knowledge seas to go cold, as if they were about to be frozen solid. Suddenly, all of them were horrified, wondering what kind of soul-type artifact Yang Kai had on him that allowed him to achieve such a feat. Xianxia left you all behind just to be scapegoats. Why bother trying so hard? Yang Kai shook his head, not wanting to be entangled with these people any longer. Even if he can escape back to War City, I will still take his life. All of you will only die a worthless death. The 7 people's faces sank, one of them quickly saying, "Ninth young lord, there's no need to sow discord. We were born as members of the Xiang and Nan families. Even if we die, we will still be ghosts of the Xiang and Nan families. Protecting the young lord's safety is our duty. Since ninth young lord is so confident, why not let us see your heaven-defying methods? Then I'll fulfill your wishes." Yang Kai nodded gently, his expression calming down, the bone shield in his hand disappearing as he slowly raised his right hand. As Yang Kai raised his hand, the 7 of them suddenly felt a sense of foreboding, as if everything in this world had suddenly come to a standstill. 7 pairs of eyes involuntarily bulged, filled with horror and fear as they stared at Yang Kai, wanting to attack but finding that no matter what they did, they couldn't move their hands or feet. In this world, the only one who could move was Yang Kai. The middle finger of his right hand touched his forehead, and a dreamlike whisper suddenly sounded. "Become the demon race." The sky trembled and the earth buzzed. A kind of illusion that the heavens were falling apart appeared in everyone's hearts. A mass of darkness that seemed capable of swallowing all light and hope suddenly burst out from Yang Kai's body. This black energy was as dense as ink, and a bloodthirsty, brutal, and evil aura filled the air, causing the 7 people to involuntarily feel a trace of panic. As Yang Kai's aura grew, a deep sense of powerlessness filled each of their hearts. The power Yang Kai displayed had completely shocked them. The evil energy inside the unyielding golden skeleton had not been used for a long time. Yang Kai was also concerned about the irreconcilable relationship between the 8 great families and the ash-gray cloud evil land, so he had not shown his evil side. But now, in order to kill Xianxia and Nansheng, he no longer hesitated. The ink-black evil energy only appeared for a moment before it was suddenly swallowed up by Yang Kai's body. Looking around, Yang Kai was still the same Yang Kai, but the feeling he gave off to the 7 people was completely different from a moment ago. A moment ago, the 7 of them had been fantasizing about joining forces to capture Yang Kai and set up a meritorious service for Nansheng and Xianxia, but now, none of them dared to think so. They didn't know why, but facing the current Yang Kai, the 7 of them couldn't help feeling like they had reached a dead end. The 7 people's eyes also seemed to be covered by dark clouds, swallowed by darkness, unable to see the slightest trace of light, unable to find their bearings. Facing this cold and cruel gaze, the 7 people couldn't help retreating a few steps in horror. Yang Kai raised his hand slightly and sent out a few small black streaks of energy towards one of the 7 people. The man's complexion changed greatly and he hurriedly dodged, but just as he was about to do so, his body shook violently and his exposed skin was instantly covered by the black chi, causing him to fall to the ground. With a single blow, an immortal ascension boundary 3rd stage cultivator had been killed without even being able to fight back. The remaining 6 people all paled and remained silent out of fear. They hadn't even seen how this man had been struck and hadn't expected Yang Kai to be so powerful at this moment. Back at Taifang Mountain, Yang Kai was able to kill 2 Immortal Ascension Boundary 2nd Stage Masters with just his Yuan Qi 5th Stage cultivation. Now that he was only one step away from breaking through to the Immortal Ascension Boundary, the strength he could display was naturally much greater than before. These Immortal Ascension Boundary 3rd or 4th Stage Masters were nothing in his eyes. "Those who block my path die." Yang Kai's low voice rang out, and the sky suddenly became dim as a black palm print, like a rolling cloud, slammed down towards the 6 people. It was like a giant hand that covered the sky, growing larger and larger as time passed, making them feel like they couldn't avoid it. The 6 people screamed in horror as they madly circulated their yuan qi, trying to escape, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't avoid this giant palm print. With a bang, the earth trembled. The black palm print slammed down, creating a deep crater in the ground as the sound of bones breaking rang out. The 6 people, some crawling backwards, all fell into the giant palm print. Although none of them died, the evil energy had eroded their souls and bodies, causing their consciousnesses to become blurred. With so many broken bones, it was likely they would never be able to recover in this lifetime. I already said you were scapegoats, yet you still refuse to realize your mistakes. Yang Kai shook his head. Nansheng and Xiang Chu knew he could greatly improve their strength, but they didn't seem to have told anyone. If the 7 people who had stayed behind to intercept Yang Kai had known about this information, they would never have had any hope of capturing Yang Kai, nor would they have been beaten so miserably. Ignoring the life or death of these 6 people, Yang Kai glanced towards War City 100 kilometers away, coldly snorted, and chased after them. Even if Xiang Chu and Nanxing had really hidden in Yang Zhao's mansion, they would still die today. War City. Nansheng and Xiang Chu both looked panicked as they rushed into the city with a group of cultivators. At first glance, the passers-by saw their distressed appearance and couldn't help feeling surprised, wondering who was chasing these 2 and why they had ended up in such a sorry state. All of them were sweating profusely, their yuan qi completely exhausted, yelling at the passers-by to get out of the way as they hurriedly rushed towards Yang Zhao's mansion. The news quickly spread to Yang Wei and Yang Kai's houses. Yang Wei's brow furrowed. He didn't know what was going on, but he realized that something big was about to happen. Immediately, he and the blood warriors who followed him quietly left the mansion and walked towards Yang Zhao's compound. In Yang Kai's mansion, when Qiu Yimeng learned of this news, her beautiful face couldn't help turning pale and quickly issued orders to all the forces in the mansion to prepare for Yang Kai's return. She wasn't sure what had happened to Nanxing and Xiang Chu, but she faintly felt that it had something to do with Yang Kai. Chapter 517. The cultivator from Yang Kai's mansion was about to set off under Qiu Yimeng's leadership when the old demon suddenly appeared beside Qiu Yimeng and frowned. No need to go out, young master seems to have returned. He's back? Qiu Yimeng breathed a sigh of relief. When Yang Kai took Ying Jiao out, she had been on tenterhooks, fearing that Yang Kai had encountered some kind of accident. Now that she heard the old demon say this, she couldn't help feeling relieved and hurriedly asked, "Where is he now?" The old demon's expression became cold as he secretly probed for a moment before replying, "He's back, but he doesn't seem to have any intention of returning to the mansion. Instead, he's heading southeast." Southeast? Qiu Yimeng muttered, her expression suddenly changing. That's the location of Yang Zhao's mansion. Who provoked young master? He's very angry right now. The old demon took a deep breath. This old master must go and protect him. As soon as his voice fell, the old man transformed into a bloody light and disappeared. Qiu Yimeng's beautiful face suddenly went pale and she didn't dare to hesitate, hurriedly leading the masters from the mansion to rush out. At the same time, Meng Wuya, who was meditating in his room, slowly opened his eyes, his brow furrowed as he turned his gaze towards Yang Kai's location, muttering to himself, "What's wrong with that little bastard? Why is his evil qi so thick?" Muttering to himself, Meng Wuya quickly stood up, opened the door, and stared at the horizon. Up above, dark clouds covered the sky, blocking out the slightest bit of sunlight. It seemed that the entire War City had fallen into darkness, the rolling black clouds like ink-splashed cotton, weighing down on everyone's hearts. Sighing slightly, Meng Wuya took a few steps forward and flew a few thousand meters away. Back in the Seal Temple, the 8 above Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters sitting on the high platform also withdrew from the small world where their divine senses had merged. Glancing at each other, their seemingly turbid old eyes flashed with some surprise. Qiu Daoren hesitated for a moment before saying, "Brother Yang, that little brat of yours seems to be showing signs of becoming the demon race." Yang Liting's expression remained indifferent as he closed his eyes and said nothing. The fat elder laughed and said, "You don't care? If he continued like this, he might really become the demon race." Only then did Yang Liting open his eyes and say indifferently, "He has to walk his own path. This old master doesn't have the leisure to care about his life or death. What if he really has a change of heart and turns into a demon?" The Kong family's above Immortal Ascension boundary elder frowned and asked. A young man with such a thick murderous aura around him would sooner or later be affected by it and fall into the demonic Dao, becoming a murderous maniac who didn't even recognize his own family. When the time comes, this old man will personally clean up the sect. Brother Kong need not worry about it, Yang Liting responded coldly. Hearing this, the other 7 no longer tried to dissuade him, all of them slowly shaking their heads, secretly feeling that although the Yang family was strong, it wouldn't last long. Their familial feelings were really too weak. If it was a young disciple of their family who was in such a situation, how could they sit still? He would have left the mountain long ago to capture him and properly train him to suppress the evil genes in his body. What's more, this little brat had outstanding talent and was very likely to be a rising star of the Yang family in the future, yet Yang Liting was actually willing to ignore him. The 7 grand elders really couldn't understand. However, this was someone else's family matter after all. They had all lived for many years and were naturally indifferent to this matter. If Yang Liting didn't care about it, they naturally wouldn't care either. In fact, they were actually quite happy to see this scene. The Yang family had occupied the top position in the central capital for a long time, and if it continued to develop like this, within 100 years, it would inevitably give way to one of the other 7 families. What was laughable was that while the 7 families could see this, the Yang family couldn't. Yang Zhao's mansion. Nan Sheng and Xiang Chu fled back to their room like stray dogs, their hasty cries alerting Yang Zhao, who was lying on his bed. Quickly getting up, Yang Zhao glanced outside. "Second young master, what's wrong?" Exen wriggled her waist like a water snake, her snow-white skin exposed to the air, her 2 slender legs wrapped around Yang Zhao's waist, her eyes blurred as her face flushed red. "Something's wrong. I seem to hear the voices of Xiang Chu and Nan Sheng." Yang Zhao frowned. "Did they come back?" Exen smiled like a blooming flower, adding a touch of charm to her face. "They must have brought second young master good news." Yang Zhao chuckled, reaching out his hand and gently pinching Exen's plump breasts, causing them to ripple. This rough action caused Exen to grunt and stare towards him. That had better be the case. Yang Zhao was also secretly looking forward to it. This time's operation could be said to have been carried out without anyone noticing. He also had great confidence in Kang Zhan and Qiu Zirua, so these past few days he had been waiting for news and had not been in the mood to cultivate. Instead, he had spent this time with Exen, relieving the anxiety in his heart. Otherwise, with his sex life, it would have been impossible for him to indulge in such debauchery in broad daylight. Beauty was indeed attractive, but what he valued more was his own strength and the power he could grasp. As long as he could defeat Yang Kai in the inheritance war, his eldest brother Yang Wei would no longer be a threat. When the time came, he could easily win the final victory of the inheritance war. Since it's good news, it won't be too late to wait and hear it later. Exen said sweetly, stretching out her jade arm and wrapping it around Yang Zhao's neck, pulling him down in an attempt to keep him here for a while. "Don't make trouble. If it's really good news, I'll pamper you tonight." Yang Zhao's eyes flashed, not the slightest trace of obscenity, only endless expectation. Although Exen felt a little regretful and disappointed, she no longer insisted. To deal with a man like Yang Zhao, her body was only a small trick, not a decisive factor. "Then this lady will help you get dressed." Exen sat up docilely and pulled out the clothes that had been piled up messily on the bed and helped Yang Zhao put them on. Just as she finished dressing, Yang Zhao's expression suddenly changed while Exen's movements also paused. Because both of them had heard Xiang Chu and Nan Xing's desperate and panicked cries. Both of them immediately realized that something was wrong. If these two had really brought back the good news Yang Zhao was looking forward to, it would have been impossible for them to behave like this. "Second young lord, second young lord." Outside the door, the sound of footsteps and Xiang Chu's and Nan Sheng's cries rang out. Yang Zhao's expression sank as he quickly stepped out, opened the door, and glanced at Xiang Chu and Nan Sheng, His face couldn't help becoming pale. The two of them were in an extremely sorry state, their bodies covered with scars, their faces pale, and the yuan qi flowing through their bodies was almost undetectable. They were like stray dogs that had been chased back home. Xianxia exclaimed and quickly hid herself on the bed, covering her tender white body with the bedding, so as not to let any light leak out. What happened? Yang Zhao took a deep breath, trying to calm his mood as he asked. Seeing the appearance and expression of these two, Yang Zhao also understood something, but he still couldn't believe his guess was correct. Second young master. Nansheng pursed his dry and pale lips. After calling out his name, he couldn't say anything else. Yang Zhao immediately turned his eyes to Xiangchu, the latter's expression also flickering with shame and resentment. Did you fail? Yang Zhao asked coldly, a cold light flashing across his face. Nansheng remained silent, his face red. Xiangchu had no choice but to bite the bullet and say, Second young lord is disappointed. Yang Zhao couldn't help but stagger slightly as he stared at these two in disbelief. Although he had some faint speculations in his heart, when they were confirmed, Yang Zhao still couldn't believe it. He had dispatched so many people, a perfect lineup and impeccable strength, how could they still fail? Tell me the reason. Yang Zhao's expression suddenly became cold as he shouted. Ingjiu has reached the Immortal Ascension Boundary 9th stage. Xiangchu grit his teeth and replied. This was something no one had expected. Ingjiu, who had reached the Immortal Ascension Boundary 8th stage, was already enough to give Yang Zhao a headache. He had even summoned 2 peak Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters to deal with him. How could he have known Ingjiu had broken through to the Immortal Ascension Boundary 9th stage? An Immortal Ascension Boundary 9th stage Blood Warrior was likely only a Blood Warrior or an above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master of the same level could deal with him. Hearing this explanation, Yang Zhao couldn't help feeling startled, his expression relaxing a little. This false information obviously accounted for most of the reason for the operation's failure. What else? Even if Ingjiu was an Immortal Ascension Boundary 9th stage cultivator, you shouldn't have failed. The people I gave you were more than enough to restrain Ingjiu. Recovering from his shock, Yang Zhao asked coldly. Ingjiu was indeed restrained. Xiangchu's expression was bitter as he recalled his previous encounter and couldn't help shuddering, but Yang Kai had 2 mysterious grade artifacts. Immediately, Xiangchu briefly recounted his previous encounter. The more Yang Zhao listened, the colder his heart became, only now realizing how terrifying his 9th brother was. What about Kang Zhan and Qiu Ziru? How come only the 2 of you came back? Yang Zhao suddenly recovered and asked. Young Master Kang. He was pierced through the right side of his chest by Yang Kai and was seriously injured. He should still be healing. What? Yang Zhao's eyes widened. Xianxia, who was lying on the bed, also called out in shock, covering her mouth with her hand as a strange light flashed across her eyes. Kang Zhan had been pierced through the right side of his chest by Yang Kai. This news was simply too shocking. Since ancient times, no young lord of the 8 great families had ever suffered such a serious injury while participating in the inheritance war. According to the ancient records, the young lords and young ladies had at most suffered some superficial wounds that would heal after a few days of rest. But this time, the future successor of the Kang family had actually been stabbed. This news dumbfounded Yang Zhao and Xianxia. They hadn't expected Yang Kai to be so bold. What about Qiu Ziru? I don't know, we separated on the way back. I don't know where he is now. Good. Yang Zhao suddenly burst into laughter, his laughter like thunder, rolling across the room. Both Xiangchu and Nansheng couldn't help feeling their cheeks burn, wishing they could find a hole to crawl into and hide. You're quite strong. You were actually beaten to such a state by my 9th brother. You really are all young lords from first-class families. Your skills are extraordinary. Usually you're all proud and arrogant, but now you're like stray dogs. You brought so many people with you, yet you couldn't even capture my 9th brother. What use do I have for you? Xiangchu and Nansheng were scolded so harshly that they couldn't help feeling annoyed. Although they felt sullen in their hearts, they didn't dare to refute. Chapter 5:18. Just as Yang Zhao was reprimanding Xiang Chu and Nanxing, an angry roar suddenly rang out. Xiang Chu, Nanxing, your time of death has come. This voice wasn't loud, but it clearly reached everyone's ears. Xiang Chu and Nanxing, who were both filled with shame and anger, couldn't help panicking when they heard these words. Yang Zhao's expression suddenly became strange as he glared towards Xiang Chu and Nanxing, sneering. What do you mean? Why is ninth brother here? Nanxing closed his mouth, not daring to speak. Xiang Chu braced himself and said, Yang Kai seems to have chased us all the way here. Nonsense. Yang Zhao ground his teeth and roared, Of course I know he chased us all the way here, but why is he doing this? Are you hiding something from me? When he was describing the battle with Yang Kai, Xiang Chu hadn't mentioned anything about High Heaven Pavilion because he was afraid Yang Zhao would think too much. But now, Yang Kai had arrived outside the mansion, so Xiang Chu suddenly understood that he couldn't hide anything. Speak, what did you do to provoke him and make him so angry? Yang Zhao took a deep breath and tried to calm his tone. It was High Heaven Pavilion's people. Big Brother Nan injured one of their disciples. High Heaven Pavilion? The sect ninth brother came from? Yang Zhao frowned and continued to ask, It's not that simple, is it? Second young master, please calm your anger. Xiang Chu frowned and helplessly explained the whole story. After listening, Yang Zhao nodded gently, opposing each other and resorting to any means necessary. What you did wasn't wrong. Xiang Chu was overjoyed when he heard this, thinking that Yang Zhao didn't want to hold them accountable, but just as his smile bloomed, Yang Zhao's expression became cold again as he glared at him and said, If you had the ability to withstand ninth brother's revenge, I would have clapped my hands in joy. But do you have the ability? If you don't have the ability, then why would you do such a stupid thing? I only want to say that you two idiots have been blinded by hatred. Xiang Chu kept quiet out of fear. Nanxing raised his head and said, Regardless of whether we are right or wrong, Yang Kai is making such a ruckus outside the mansion right now. If second young master doesn't respond, I'm afraid the world will look down on you. Trying to goad me? Yang Zhao laughed. Nanxing, you really look down on this Yang Zhao too much. No wonder you and Xiang Chu suffered such a big loss at the hands of my ninth brother. Nanxing couldn't help but panic, his voice trembling as he said, This Nan didn't mean that, second young master, please forgive me. Glaring at him coldly, Yang Zhao said, But you're right, ninth brother daring to provoke me outside my house in broad daylight, I can't just ignore him. When Xiang Chu and Nanxing heard this, they couldn't help feeling overjoyed and quickly said, Many thanks, second young lord. No need. Yang Zhao slowly shook his head and said flatly, This time I will protect you because you are still my allies. After today, all of you can return to your respective clans. War City does not need you, nor does the Yang family's inheritance war. With a cold snort, he turned around, picked up his clothes, and walked out. Behind him, Nanxing and Xiang Chu's faces were completely drained of blood. They hadn't expected that because of this incident, Yang Zhao would actually expel them. The Xiang and Nan families were quite powerful and had long since attached themselves to the great tree that was Yang Zhao in this inheritance war. For so long, they had braved wind and rain, experiencing all kinds of hardships, fighting side by side with Yang Zhao. For the sake of the inheritance war, the Xiang and Meng families had also invested a lot of manpower, material, financial, and so on. But now, at the end of the inheritance war, they were actually going to be expelled by the main family. If news of this spread out, the two families would definitely become laughingstocks. After paying so much, not receiving any benefits was only secondary, the family's honor would definitely be tarnished. After offending Yang Kai and failing to obtain his protection and favor, wanting to establish a relationship with the Yang family in the future would be somewhat unrealistic. The other great forces in the world may also alienate the Xiang and Nan families because of this incident. When that time came, the family's development would definitely be difficult. It was also very likely that because of this incident, the two of them would lose their positions as family heirs. Considering all this, Xiang Chu and Nanxing couldn't help shivering in cold sweat. Immediately, their eyes filled with hatred and resentment. Both of them couldn't help grinding their teeth and clenching their fists. If it weren't for Yang Kai, If it weren't for Yang Kai, how could they have fallen to such a state? Two young lords. A delicate voice suddenly called out from the side, causing the dazed Xiang Chu and Nansheng to look up and see Xen Rose smiling charmingly, reaching out to cover her chest with a quilt, exposing her two delicate shoulders, giving off an alluring luster like that of porcelain. Normally, Xiang Chu and Nansheng would definitely have imprinted this beautiful scene into their eyes, but right now, they weren't in the mood to do so. Yi Xen Ro giggled, not caring about her exposed skin, reaching out and lifting the quilt, revealing the front of her chest, whispering softly, "You're standing here, it's not easy for me to get dressed. Can you two step back for a moment? Also, second young lord has already left, don't you want to chase after him?" Xiang Chu and Nansheng awoke from their stupor and quickly ran out. Although Yang Zhao had said that he would protect them this time, who knew if he was telling the truth? After the two left, Yi Xen Ro curled her lips and muttered discontentedly, "Why didn't you help me close the door?" Muttering to herself, her cheeks flushed red as she muttered to herself, "This Yang Kai is quite interesting, even daring to stab Kang Zhan. His courage is quite big." Although she had been in contact with Yang Kai several times, she had never spoken to this youngest Yang family young lord, so she didn't know what kind of temperament he had. But today, after experiencing it for herself, she couldn't help secretly paying attention, wondering who would win the inheritance war between him and second young lord Yang Zhao. Outside Yang Kai's house, Yang Kai stood alone, his demonic qi soaring to the heavens, his huge divine sense enveloping the entire compound, penetrating every nook and cranny. A steady stream of people rushed towards Yang Kai's house and slowly gathered. These people had all been attracted by Yang Kai's voice and none of them knew what was happening. Inside War City, a storm was brewing. A few thousand meters away, inside a tea house, Yang Wei, who had concealed his appearance, squinted towards Yang Kai from a few thousand meters away and couldn't help feeling surprised. He found that although Yang Kai seemed calm right now, in fact, his murderous intent had been locked onto a certain spot in Yang Zhao's house, and the look on his face was also extremely firm. It was as if he would never give up until he had killed his target. What does ninth brother want to do? Yang Wei was stunned. War City had been peaceful for more than 2 months now, and everyone had been working hard to develop and strengthen themselves in order to achieve the effect of suppressing the enemy. Ninth brother suddenly making such a move made Yang Wei quite confused. However, faintly, Yang Wei felt like he had missed a good show. There should be some kind of conflict between ninth brother and second brother that he wasn't aware of, otherwise, it would be impossible for him to make such a big fuss in broad daylight. At that moment, a blood-red light broke through the air, bringing with it an unparalleled demonic qi. Yang Wei's breath came to a halt as he stared towards this blood-red light. A moment later, the blood-red light fell beside Yang Kai. It was the evil demon master who had suddenly appeared in Yang Kai's house 2 months ago. Young master. As soon as the old demon appeared, he stood not far from Yang Kai, vigilant of the surrounding movements. Yang Kai nodded gently, already knowing that this old man would come, so he didn't show much interest. Where did this person come from? Yang Wei thought bitterly, really unable to figure out the origins of this old demon. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, Yang Wei saw a familiar figure calmly sit down in the chair across from him. Turning his head, Yang Wei found that it was actually Lu Qingyao of the Lu family. Yang Wei nodded slightly and raised his hand to pour him a cup of tea. "No one knows where that person came from," Lu Qingyao suddenly said. "This person seems to have appeared out of thin air. All we know is that half a year ago he was active in the Ash-Gray Cloud Evil Land and killed a lot of people." Yang Wei raised his brow. "So, he's from the Evil Land?" "Unlikely. In the Ash-Gray Cloud Evil Land, there is no such person under the command of the 6 great evil kings." Lu Qingyao shook his head. The old demon had displayed shocking strength 2 months ago, so Lu Qingyao was naturally more concerned about him. Even after using the Lu family's strength to inquire about him for a long time, he still couldn't find any clues. But it seems that he is very respectful to ninth brother. Why is such a strong person so docile in front of ninth brother? Yang Wei gently sighed, still puzzled. These were masters who were only one step away from the above immortal ascension boundary. Even the central capital's 8 great families didn't have many such masters. These people, even if their status wasn't as high as those at the above immortal ascension boundary, weren't far behind. Once they broke through, they would receive the respect and admiration of the masses. Not to mention him, your 9th brother is also not a fish in a pond. Lu Qingyao's expression became dignified as he stared off into the distance, fixing his eyes on Yang Kai. Yang Wei glanced over at him and suddenly smiled. I didn't expect young Lord Lu to praise someone so highly. If 9th brother knew, he would definitely be proud. Lu Qingyao shook his head. I'm not qualified to evaluate him. His future achievements will be higher than mine. He's higher than you now. Yang Wei smiled meaningfully. Yang Kai's vitality was now extremely vigorous. Although he was only at the Yuan Qi boundary 9th stage, even from such a distance, Yang Kai could still feel a huge amount of pressure coming from Yang Kai. He estimated that if he were to fight with Yang Kai now, he would be defeated in less than 10 breaths. Even if Lu Qingyao was stronger than him, he was definitely not his 9th brother's opponent. Since Yang Wei could see this, Lu Qingyao naturally could as well, but he didn't refute Yang Wei's words and instead nodded. It's just that if he continues like this, he will sooner or later fall into the demon Dao. When that time comes, no matter how strong he is or how good his aptitude is, it will be useless. The Yuan Qi in his body is filled with too much malevolent evil Qi, something he won't be able to suppress. Hearing this, Yang Wei couldn't help wearing a bitter expression, knowing that Lu Qingyao wasn't exaggerating, but in his heart he couldn't help wondering how Yang Kai had become like this. Could it be that 9th brother has been cultivating some kind of demonic secret art these past 2 months? Yang Wei secretly guessed. Chapter 5:19. More and more people rushed out of Yang Kai's house to confront him, but when they saw the old demon guarding Yang Kai, their faces filled with horror and none of them dared to act rashly. The old demon's bloody and cruel methods that night had given them too much of a deterrent. Not long after the old demon arrived, Qiu Yimeng also appeared beside Yang Kai with a group of people. When she saw Yang Kai's current state, the Qiu family's first young lady couldn't help being startled and quickly rushed over to ask, Yang Kai, what happened to you? Hua Xing's eyes also trembled as he felt the demonic qi emanating from Yang Kai's body, causing his heart to go cold. The crowd was also pointing at Yang Kai and whispering, discussing whether the youngest young lord of the Yang family was really on the verge of becoming the demon race and was about to lose his mind and be driven by evil. If this was the case, it would be a big joke. The central capital's 8 great families and the ash-gray cloud evil land had always been like fire and water, and the cultivator of the 8 great families had always been responsible for eradicating the demon race. The Yang family's rising star, who was expected to win the right to inherit the patriarch's position, was actually about to become an evil demon. If this news spread, it would only become the talk of the world. Tang Yuxian, the Hu sisters, Dong Qinghan, the 4 girls from 10,000 Flower Palace, Luo Xiaoman, all of them looked over with concern, their faces filled with worry. Are you still sober? Qiu Yimeng asked in a trembling voice, her pair of beautiful eyes staring straight into Yang Kai's eyes, trying to find a trace of humanity in them. Unfortunately, she was disappointed. Yang Kai's eyes, although clear at the moment, were filled with murderous intent, as if he had been affected by hatred and murderous intent, obliterating his true nature. Qiu Yimeng couldn't help trembling as she felt somewhat at a loss. Although her performance in the inheritance war was excellent and she had been acting as Yang Kai's deputy, directing the actions of the many cultivator in the house, in the end, she still regarded Yang Kai as her backbone and all her actions and commands revolved around him. If Yang Kai had an accident, all her efforts would have been in vain. Yang Kai turned his head to look at her and shook his head. It's okay. Qiu Yimeng was stunned, seemingly unable to believe that Yang Kai was able to suppress the demonic qi in this state and maintain a clear mind. If it was any other martial artist, they probably wouldn't be able to do it, right? Old Demon curled his lips and grinned. Young master, your current aura is very much to old servant's liking. Us master and servant really do share some kind of fate. Qiu Yimeng couldn't help glancing at Yang Kai. Yang, since you're back, why did you come here? To kill. Kill who? Xiangchu and Nanxing. Hearing to Yang Kai's family Xiangchu and Nanxing, although their status wasn't comparable to the young lords and young ladies of the central capital's 8 great families, they were still the future successors of first-class families. Such people couldn't be killed just because Yang Kai said so. Even a hateful person like Lu Song, Yang Kai didn't intend to take his life, so why would he want to kill Xiangchu and Nanxing at this time? Qiu Yimeng, who had just calmed down, couldn't help thinking that Yang Kai had gone crazy. Yang Kai, can we go back first? Qiu Yimeng stepped forward and grabbed Yang Kai's arm, pleading softly, let's go back and discuss this matter. We need to see if there is a suitable method to kill Nanxing and Xiangchu without too much effort. Yang Kai turned his head and looked at her strangely. I'm serious, even if you block the way, there's no way to kill them. Yang Zhao has a lot of cultivators, even if we all rush in, we may not be able to kill them. Qiu Yimeng continued, let's go back first, okay? Huastar's eyes couldn't help bulging. He had never seen such a gentle side of Qiu Yimeng before. The Qiu family's first young lady had always been intelligent and far-sighted, giving people a sense of shrewdness and ability, making everyone overlook her feminine side. Once such a woman became gentle, she was a fatal temptation to any man, an irresistible temptation. Huastars thought that if he were treated so gently by Qiu Yimeng, his bones would melt and he would become completely obedient to her. Yes, Yang Kai, let's go back first, we'll accompany you to discuss this matter for a few days and nights. Luo Xiaoman didn't know where her courage came from, but she actually dared to speak to Yang Kai. The 4 10,000 Flower Palace girls all nodded in agreement, each of them trying to persuade Yang Kai one by one. Although their words were different, without exception, all of them were extremely gentle, their faces filled with the radiance of motherly love. The rest of the crowd couldn't help looking at each other strangely. Yang Kai frowned, sweeping his eyes over the crowd, his eyes finally landing on Qiu Yimeng's face. Do you all treat me like a child? However, even though he said this, Yang Kai still felt a burst of warmth in his heart. No matter what, these people were concerned about his condition. All the women present blushed, only now realizing that his mind was really clear and there were no signs of confusion. Yang Kai chuckled lightly, a trace of gratitude and tenderness appearing on his face as he said lightly, I'm really fine, you don't need to worry. Qiu Yimeng took a deep breath, her expression becoming solemn. Good, I believe you're really fine, but you said you want to kill Xiangchu and Nanxing, how are you going to do that? This is Yang Zhao's house. There are nearly 1,000 cultivators here, 4 or 5 times our number. Even if you can kill them, most of the people here will die with them. Do you really have the heart to do that? You think too highly of them. Yang Kai's expression became cold as he slowly shook his head. Numbers don't mean everything. Second brother is a cautious person. Without absolute certainty, it's absolutely impossible for him to fight with me. He has scruples about big brother. He wants to win the inheritance war. Haha, I don't care. Yang Kai sneered. Qiu Yimeng was stunned. She hadn't expected that Yang Kai would not only be fine but also have such a clear mind. One was free to act recklessly while the other was cautious and overcautious. The development of the situation was likely to be exactly as Yang Kai had said. While Qiu Yimeng was in a daze, Yang Zhao had already strode out of the house, his face gloomy, and under the protection of the numerous cultivators, he coldly shouted, Ninth brother, what is the meaning of this? Yang Zhao was also furious. The failure of Xiangchu, Nanxing, and the others had greatly disappointed him. Although he was secretly surprised by Yang Kai's strength, being blocked outside his house like this made Yang Zhao feel like his face had been damaged. It was still daytime, and although dark clouds had gathered in the sky, making it impossible to see the sun, his ninth brother acting like this was clearly not putting him in his eyes. Second brother, Yang Kai nodded lightly to him. Second brother's methods are quite good. This time, ninth brother almost lost. Yang Zhao's expression became bitter as he coldly snorted, No need to ridicule second brother, it was I who underestimated your strength. This time, if I had gone out personally, you wouldn't be standing here talking to me right now. Yang Kai smiled contemptuously. Even if second brother had gone out personally, I'm afraid he wouldn't have succeeded. Yang Zhao's expression suddenly became cold as he said in a low voice, "Ninth brother, second brother now realizes that you are the most arrogant person in the Yang family." Pausing for a moment, Yang Zhao slowly shook his head. "Ninth brother, for a single High Heaven Pavilion disciple, is it really worth it? I've heard what happened, and indeed, since you had an agreement with Kang Zhan, the Xiang and Nen families still dared to make a move against them. That's their fault. Their deaths aren't worth regretting, but you've already killed so many people, your anger should have subsided by now. You bringing people to block second brother's door, don't you think that's a bit inappropriate? Or, do you think second brother is easy to bully?" At the end of his words, Yang Zhao's tone became stern. As he questioned, the other cultivators around him all began to secretly condense their true qi, causing the scene to suddenly become tense. Yang Kai's expression remained calm as he coldly said, "Second brother, this time I don't want to argue with you, I just want to kill people. Once I kill those two people, I'll leave immediately. With me here, can you kill them? Then there's nothing to say." Yang Kai's face filled with disappointment as he slowly shook his head, his eyes sweeping past Yang Zhao and landing somewhere behind him. At some point, Xiang Chu and Nenxing had sneaked out and were currently hiding in the crowd, observing the situation from afar. Perceiving Yang Kai's gaze on them, the two of them couldn't help going pale. "Today, no matter who is protecting you, you'll all die." Yang Kai suddenly showed an impatient look as he coldly shouted, a cold light flashing across his eyes. Kacha. Suddenly, the ground began to freeze and an incomparably cold aura descended. With Yang Kai as the center, the fan-shaped territory in front of him was instantly frozen solid. Feeling the danger and murderous intent contained within this cold aura, the cultivators gathered around Yang Zhao's mansion all paled and quickly flew up into the air to avoid the encroaching cold. Unlike the true Yang Yuan Qi cultivated by Yang Kai's true Yang secret art, the energy contained within the unyielding golden skeleton was both evil and cold, the polar opposite of the true Yang Yuan Qi. As soon as Yang Kai used this evil energy, the surrounding temperature suddenly plummeted. The old demon let out a strange laugh as he stretched out his hand and sent out a blood-red light. The frozen earth was suddenly covered in a crimson light, and within this crimson light, a figure strangely appeared. This was the blood demon puppet refined by the old demon. As long as this sea of blood existed, it was immortal. The blood demon stood quietly above the sea of blood, not making the slightest movement, only a monstrous evil aura pulsing from its body. At the same time, Tang Yuxian also let out a shout as she released her powerful spiritual energy. The cultivators around Yang Kai no longer hesitated and summoned their artifacts. Roar. A loud roar rang out as a huge triangular head suddenly appeared behind Yang Kai. This was a head made of pure black energy. This triangular head swayed back and forth as its two copper bell-sized slender eyes exuded a terrifying chill. Being stared at by this pair of eyes, no one dared to act rashly. Gradually, this head finally revealed its full ferocious appearance, causing cries of alarm to ring out. This head was actually a jet-black flood dragon. Its several dozen-meter-long body hovered above Yang Kai's head, as lifelike as a real creature. When Xiang Chu and Nanxing saw this black flood dragon they had not seen in a long time, their legs couldn't help going soft and they almost fell to the ground. At the foot of Taifang Mountain, Yang Kai had relied on this black flood dragon condensed from Yuan Qi to bite off the body of an immortal ascension boundary cultivator. Chapter 520. The several dozen-meter-long black flood dragons slowly moved forward, causing many of the cultivators present to feel a sense of panic, and their attitude towards Yang Kai also quietly changed. These cultivators from Yang Kai's house had thought that they could rely on their numerical advantage to defeat Yang Kai's group, but after seeing the strength of Yang Kai's display of strength, all of them immediately restrained such thoughts. Such strength and heritage was not something an average person could capture. In today's battle, even if they could defeat the cultivators from Yang Kai's house, they might not necessarily be able to capture Yang Kai. What made them feel a little relieved, though, was that whether it was the old demon or Tang Yuxian, after showing their strength, neither of them made any moves, as if they were only here to deter and had no intention of actually starting a massacre. Yang Zhao's expression suddenly changed as he shouted, "Ninth brother, do you really intend to fight with second brother here?" As Yang Kai had said before, Yang Zhao had more concerns than he did. Although he had an absolute advantage in terms of numbers, in terms of strength and number of masters, he was inferior to Yang Kai's house. Once a fight broke out, the result would only be a lose-lose situation. At that time, the fisherman who reaped the benefits would be Yang Wei. He didn't want others to take advantage of him. Before he had an absolute advantage, he didn't intend to face anyone head-on. Unfortunately, Yang Kai's tyrannical display this time made Yang Zhao realize that the course of the inheritance war would not develop as he expected. "Second brother, as I said, I only want to kill those two people, hand them over and I'll immediately withdraw." Yang Kai slowly shook his head. "Impossible." Yang Zhao also shook his head. If he really handed over Xiang Chu and Nansheng, what would become of him? However, he also understood from Yang Kai's words that Yang Kai also didn't want to start a war here. A lose-lose situation was something no one was willing to accept. Yang Zhao was afraid that Yang Wei would take advantage of the situation while Yang Kai was unwilling to let his friends face danger. The starting points of the two were different, but their considerations were the same. After pondering for a moment, Yang Zhao suddenly chuckled and said, "Ninth brother, since you and second brother both have concerns, I have a suggestion, would you like to hear it?" Yang Kai's brow furrowed, not knowing what kind of plot Yang Zhao was trying to play, but he still nodded gently, "Speak." "This time, let's just treat it as an internal struggle between our Yang family members. Since it's an internal struggle, only the Yang family members can participate. You want to kill and I want to protect. Let's use our own methods. How about it?" The corners of Yang Kai's mouth curled up as he smiled playfully. "Internal strife? Not bad. Only the Yang family members can participate. Including blood warriors, right? Of course, the blood warriors may not be surnamed Yang, but they are still members of my Yang family." "I understand." Yang Kai nodded lightly, then suddenly looked up, his eyes shining brightly. "We'll do as second brother says. This time, it's an internal struggle between my Yang family members." "It's a deal." Yang Zhao couldn't help laughing, as if he had just succeeded in some kind of plot. Yang Kai also laughed, but his laugh was extremely strange. Qiu Yimeng's brow furrowed, faintly realizing that something was wrong, but she couldn't figure out what it was. Inside the tea house, Yang Wei and Lu Qingyao both wore confused looks, neither of them understanding what Yang Zhao was trying to do. Why was he acting so smug? Even more so, they couldn't understand what Yang Kai was trying to do, his expression completely calm and confident. Of these two brothers, one was confident he could protect Nansheng and Xiang Chu while the other was confident he could kill them. In the end, no one knew who would succeed. Since only the Yang family members could participate in this battle, Tang Yuxian and the blood warrior beside Yang Zhao would definitely face off, so Yang Zhao's opponent would be Yang Kai. Although the current Yang Kai's aura was ferocious and brutal, showing signs of becoming the demon race, his oppressive momentum and tyrannical strength were obvious to all. Was Yang Zhao confident he could stop him? Yang Wei and Lu Qingyao weren't optimistic. Even if Yang Zhao was outstanding, it was impossible for him to be Yang Kai's opponent. In less than 3 breaths of time, Yang Zhao would be defeated. "Yuxian!" Yang Kai suddenly shouted. Tang Yuxian nodded gently, her delicate body flickering as she flew up into the air. The blood warrior beside Yang Zhao smiled lightly and without the slightest hesitation rushed up to meet Tang Yuxian. The two blood warriors didn't even exchange a single word before they immediately began fighting. However, no one paid any attention to them. Even though they were both Immortal Ascension boundary masters, today's focus was still on the two Yang family young lords. "Ninth brother!" Yang Zhao shouted. To everyone's surprise, facing Yang Kai at this moment, he actually didn't defend himself and instead launched a fierce counterattack, stomping his foot hard on the ground. Suddenly, several strange bulges appeared on the ground, as if there were giant earthworms rapidly moving up and down. Traces of terrifying energy surged up from below and rushed towards Yang Kai. Earth Demon Dragon technique. On the first night of the Inheritance War, Yang Zhao had used this martial skill to deal with Huastars. Each of these Earth Fiend Dragons was condensed from the soul of a fifth-order monster beast and was stored in Yang Zhao's body. When facing an enemy, he could use them flexibly, often catching his enemy off guard and catching them off guard. At that time, Yang Zhao could only use 7 Earth Demon Dragons, but now, with the growth of his strength, he could use 10 of them, and the power each of them could display was incomparable to before. Facing Yang Zhao's killing move, Yang Kai's expression didn't change in the slightest. With a single thought, the black flood dragon hovering above his head suddenly opened its bloody maw and shot out a jet of black energy. Xiao xiao xiao. Each wave of energy struck the Earth Fiend Dragon art below the ground, sending up a cloud of dust. Yang Zhao's Earth Fiend Dragon art was scattered before it could do anything. Yang Zhao, on the other hand, didn't seem to care at all. Instead, a strange grin appeared on his face as he stared towards Yang Kai. His eyes filled with pride and pity as he muttered softly, "Ninth brother, you're finished." A few thousand meters away, in the tea house, Yang Wei and Lu Qingyao both paled, exchanging a glance, suddenly understanding what Yang Zhao was planning. Qiu Yimeng's beautiful face also went pale, because in the midst of the cloud of dust, she suddenly noticed a figure approaching Yang Kai at an incredible speed. This person's appearance was extremely strange and silent, so by the time Qiu Yimeng noticed and wanted to warn Yang Zhao, it was already too late. "Second brother, do you really think ninth brother doesn't know what you're planning?" Yang Kai suddenly shouted, and the black flood dragon above his head shot out like an arrow from a bow. Before the strange figure that had appeared behind him could reach him, Yang Kai opened his mouth and bit down on him. The man was stunned, not having expected that his whereabouts would be completely understood by Yang Kai. Realizing how strange and difficult the black flood dragon was to deal with, he didn't dare to attack rashly, his figure flickering a few times before he arrived beside Yang Kai and stared towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai coldly snorted, his figure remaining motionless as he stared at the pale-faced Yang Zhao indifferently. It turns out that the other blood warrior in second brother's house has already broken the Qi binding seal, Yang Wei suddenly realized. During the artifact snatching battle at Pajing Lake, every young lord had a blood warrior with their Yuan Qi sealed by the Qi binding seal. This was the work of the Yang family's grand elder, Huang Jiuzhou. If a blood warrior wanted to rely on their own strength to break the seal, it would take at least 2 months. The blood warrior in Yang Wei's house had been in retreat, trying to break through the Qi binding seal's seal. More than 2 months had passed and he should be about to emerge. But unexpectedly, the blood warrior in Yang Zhao's house who had been imprisoned by Yuan Qi had already succeeded. No wonder Yang Zhao had made such a proposal, it turned out that this was the reason. With Ying Jiao not here, Yang Kai now had to face Yang Zhao and an Immortal Ascension Boundary 8th stage blood warrior on his own. In the eyes of outsiders, he had no chance of winning. "You already knew?" Yang Zhao's face twitched slightly. He thought his plan had succeeded and was ready to take advantage of this opportunity to directly eliminate Yang Kai, but he hadn't expected the other party to already know he had a blood warrior hidden away. "Naturally I knew." Yang Kai spat disdainfully. Under his powerful divine sense, no one in Yang Zhao's house could hide from him. "You knew and still dared to agree?" Yang Zhao stared at Yang Kai incredulously. "So what if I agreed?" Yang Kai said proudly, slowly shaking his head, "You can't stop me." These words were extremely arrogant. Everyone was dumbfounded, each of them showing a strange expression, secretly wondering if the Yang family's ninth brother had really gone mad. He couldn't be measured by the normal way of thinking at this moment. Inside the tea house, Yang Wei and Lu Qingyao were also dumbfounded. Facing an Immortal Ascension Boundary 8th stage blood warrior, he actually dared to utter such arrogant words? He really didn't take the blood warriors of his family seriously. Everyone couldn't help feeling a strange mood. The blood warrior next to Yang Zhao wore a bitter expression, smacking his lips as he said, "Little lord, although all of us blood warriors admire you, being looked down upon by you like this makes me feel very uncomfortable. In order to prove my strength, I won't hold back. Then try and see if you can stop me, Yang Kai laughed, waving his hands and sending out a black aura that covered the sky like a swarm of locusts. The black flood dragon above his head also let out a resounding roar, shaking its head and wagging its tail as it rushed towards the blood warriors and Yang Zhao. Yang Kai didn't intend to waste any more time and immediately attacked with his full strength. In the face of such a violent attack, Yang Zhao suddenly felt suffocated and couldn't help feeling like he was unable to resist. On the other hand, the blood warrior beside him suddenly released a burst of powerful energy fluctuations from his body, and a white light enveloped him and Yang Zhao at the same time, protecting them. Keng Keng King. The black aura impacted the white light, and in the blink of an eye, the white light was suddenly stained like clear water that had been splashed with ink. The blood warrior's expression changed greatly, seemingly not having expected Yang Kai to display such strange means. Not daring to neglect, he hurriedly pulled Yang Zhao away. However, the black aura seemed to have eyes of its own and followed them like a shadow, relentlessly pursuing them. A resounding dragon roar rang out again as the several dozen meter-long black flood dragon rushed towards the heads of the blood warriors and Yang Zhao, opening its bloody maw. A violent wave of energy, centered on the black flood dragon, suddenly burst forth and spread in all directions. The black aura also seemed to be ignited and burst apart. Chapter 521. All the spectating cultivators showed pained expressions under this strange power. All of them suddenly felt that even breathing had become difficult, as if there was a mountain pressing down on their heads, causing them to feel the urge to kneel on the ground. Only the old demon grinned, his eyes flashing a look of enjoyment and pleasure. This violent and evil aura was exactly the kind of power he longed for. Run! Get away from that black chi. How is that possible? How can this little lord use such a powerful force? Am I seeing things? The cultivators in Yang Zhao's house all shouted, their eyes filled with disbelief and fear as they hurriedly dodged, fearing they would be eroded by this black chi. A heaven-splitting, earth-shattering wave of power suddenly erupted from the black flood dragon's body, and a black vortex appeared in its maw. This vortex rapidly rotated, producing an unparalleled suction force that pulled Yang Zhao and the blood warriors around him towards it. Under the influence of this power, Yang Zhao had almost no strength to resist. If it weren't for the blood warriors guarding him, he would have already been sucked into the black flood dragon's maw and crushed to pieces. His face going pale, Yang Zhao realized for the first time that the gap in strength between himself and his ninth brother was so huge. It was like the gap between heaven and earth. Yang Zhao feared that even if he worked hard for a lifetime, he would never be able to catch up to his ninth brother. Thinking so, Yang Zhao suddenly felt a little disheartened, suddenly feeling that all struggles, resistance, the inheritance war, the Yang family patriarch, all of them were meaningless. Second young lord. The blood warrior shouted in Yang Zhao's ear, causing Yang Zhao to shiver as if he had just been struck by lightning, his dazed eyes recovering a trace of clarity. Don't be affected by this aura. The blood warrior quickly reminded. Yang Zhao sweated profusely and nodded quickly. He was not a man who easily admitted defeat. The reason why he had such negative thoughts just now was purely because he had been affected by Yang Kai's strange power. After being awakened by the blood warrior, Yang Zhao had also guarded his mind, not wanting to be affected by Yang Kai's aura again. Yuxian! Yang Kai also roared. Up in the sky, Tang Yuxian, who was fighting with the other blood warrior who was following Yang Zhao, grinned at her opponent and sent out a powerful spiritual energy towards him. Immortal Ascension Boundary 9th Stage? The blood warrior who was fighting Tang Yuxian suddenly exclaimed. Ah, you saw through me, Tang Yuxian chuckled. I wanted to hide it for a while. How is that possible? The blood warrior swept his eyes over Tang Yuxian, as if trying to get to know her again. How did you break through to the Immortal Ascension Boundary 9th Stage so quickly? The blood warriors were as close as brothers and sisters and knew each other well. What level Tang Yuxian was at right now, her opponent was naturally well aware of, and knew exactly when she would break through to the Immortal Ascension Boundary 9th stage. But now, the sudden burst of spiritual energy made him realize that Tang Yuxian had actually broken through. "How did you do it?" the Blood Warrior asked eagerly. Originally, his aptitude and strength were about the same as Tang Yuxian's, but now that a woman had surpassed him, he was naturally both happy and anxious. He was happy because another of his Blood Warrior Hall brothers and sisters had broken through, but he was anxious because he had fallen behind. "I'm not telling you." Tang Yuxian grinned. The man slowly shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Yuxian, it seems that after following the Little Lord, even your mentality has become younger. You weren't so naughty before." Tang Yuxian's face sank as she coldly asked, "What do you mean, are you saying I'm old?" The man's heart clenched as he immediately realized that he had touched Tang Yuxian's taboo and quickly waved his hand. "Yuxian, I didn't say that. I didn't want to teach you a lesson, but now I'm going to teach you a lesson." Tang Yuxian said angrily, no longer showing any mercy as her opponent began to complain. Although there was only a single step gap between them, it was this one step gap that allowed Tang Yuxian to possess strength far superior to her opponent. Moreover, during the battle, Tang Yuxian could constantly release her soul skills to assist Yang Kai. With Tang Yuxian's assistance, Yang Kai's situation became more and more relaxed. "Little Lord, please excuse me." The Blood Warrior who was guarding Yang Zhao suddenly shouted, immediately releasing his grip on Yang Kai and circulating his Yuan Qi. A green beam of light shot out from his body, forming a huge pillar of light that rushed towards Yang Kai. Asterisk crack. Asterisk before this beam of light could reach Yang Kai, he stretched out his hand and a black beam of energy rushed out, intercepting it midair and dispersing it. The attack condensed by the Yang family Blood Warrior, even if it wasn't his full strength, was still extremely terrifying and was unable to block Yang Kai's attack. Everyone was shocked, none of them knowing just how powerful Yang Kai's combat strength was at this moment. On the other hand, Yang Kai, although his vitality was extremely vigorous, his brow furrowed. This head-on confrontation with the Blood Warrior had made him realize that it was impossible for him to defeat his opponent. The Yang family Blood Warrior's reputation was not undeserved. Even if he had transformed into the demon race at this moment, with the assistance of Tang Yuxian's soul skill, it was impossible for him to defeat him. In other words, if it weren't for his need to protect Yang Zhao, he might have been defeated. In a one-on-one fight, Yang Kai was not the Blood Warrior's opponent. Thinking quickly, all kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind. Yang Kai coldly snorted and summoned the Black Dragon and all the evil energy back to him, wrapping him up. Flicking his wrist, Yang Kai summoned a small sword into his palm. This was the Heaven-grade top-rank soul-type artifact. Since refining it until now, Yang Kai still felt like he hadn't been able to fully integrate with it. But at this moment, in order to kill Xiangchu and Nansheng, Yang Kai had no choice but to use it. Success or failure, it all depended on this one move. Glancing behind Yang Zhao, Yang Kai saw Xiangchu and Nansheng hiding in the crowd, their faces filled with hatred and resentment. "I said, no one can protect you today, you must die." Standing in place, Yang Kai let out a deep roar as a cold light flashed across his eyes. Xiangchu and Nansheng trembled, suddenly feeling uneasy, subconsciously wanting to retreat and find someone who could protect them. Unfortunately, all the masters from the Xiang and Nan family had been killed by Yang Kai during his pursuit. The only two remaining peak Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters had fought with Ying Jiao and had yet to return. After searching for a long time, they still couldn't find a master they could rely on. Facing Yang Kai's cold eyes and shout, the two of them couldn't help feeling a bad premonition. Yang Kai's performance was beyond their expectations. None of them had expected that Yang Kai would actually dare to pursue them all the way to Yang Zhao's mansion and even make such a big fuss here, not giving any face to anyone, making it seem like he wouldn't give up until he killed both of them. "We are heirs of first-class families, Yang Kai. If you dare kill us, you will definitely regret it." Nansheng couldn't help screaming hysterically. Yang Kai slowly shook his head and coldly said, "I don't care if you are heirs of a first-class family or not. If you had injured my people in a frontal battle, I wouldn't have had anything to say, But since you dared to take advantage of me while I wasn't paying attention, you must pay the price." Saying so, Yang Kai suddenly closed his eyes. Jing. A crisp and melodious sound rang out from the small sword in his hand, as if someone was gently flicking it. A strange aura began to spread from Yang Kai's body. "Quickly stop him." Yang Zhao saw that the situation had taken a turn for the worse and quickly shouted, summoning his mysterious great artifact at the same time. This was a shining golden ring-shaped artifact, one of his spoils from the artifact snatching battle at Pijing Lake. Madly pouring his yuan qi into the ring, Yang Zhao casually threw it out, causing the ring to suddenly split into 2, then 4, then 8. In the blink of an eye, the golden ring blotted out the sky and flew towards Yang Kai. The flood dragon roared, swayed its body, and used its huge body to protect Yang Kai, leaving no room for escape. Mad Tyrant Blood Skill. At some unknown time, Tang Yuxian had also rushed down from the sky, an unimaginable strength erupting from her delicate body as she stood in front of Yang Kai. The two blood warriors who followed Yang Zhao also rushed up. A violent wave of attacks shot towards Tang Yuxian. The scene was chaotic. Yang Kai, on the other hand, was as calm as still water. The noise, the sounds of battle, and the violent explosions of energy were all blown away by the wind, as if he was standing on a calm lake. Drip. Yang Kai's heart throbbed, and for some reason, his spiritual energy and the small sword-like soul-type artifact had reached an unprecedented state of harmony at this moment. Yang Kai seemed to have integrated himself into the small sword. Xiao. The small sword transformed into a stream of light and shot out from Yang Kai's hand at a speed that was impossible to see with the naked eye or even capture with one's divine sense. With his consciousness inside the small sword, Yang Kai saw Tang Yuxian, who had used her Mad Tyrant blood skill to fight against the two Immortal Ascension Boundary 8th stage blood warriors, sweat dripping down her face, but she did not retreat. He saw the black flood dragon, who had been guarding him, being battered by Yang Zhao's mysterious great artifact, its black qi tumbling. He saw the surrounding cultivators' jaws drop in disbelief. He even saw his own figure reflected in Qiu Yimeng's beautiful eyes, as well as the worry in them. A few thousand meters away, in a tea house, Yang Kai saw Yang Wei and Lu Qingyao standing by the window with dignified expressions. At this moment, time seemed to slow down, and Yang Kai's thoughts and feelings were 10,000 times clearer than before. Everything he saw was imprinted in his mind. A mysterious feeling rose from the bottom of his heart. This was a feeling he had never experienced before. Under this kind of sensation, Yang Kai experienced an unprecedented feeling. It was as if a layer of shackles in his mind had been broken, causing him to suddenly feel light, as if he was a fish leaping into the sky. The speed of the small sword-like soul-type artifact also increased by a fraction. High up in the sky, the dark clouds that covered the entire war city suddenly condensed at this moment, becoming thicker and more oppressive than before. Yang Kai was immersed in a state of selflessness, locking his sights on Nansheng. Chapter 522. As if realizing something, Nansheng immediately panicked and shouted, "Save me! Save me!" Yang Zhao heard this but unfortunately didn't do anything. Facing Yang Kai, who was so powerful he had already used all the means at his disposal, but all he could do was break through some of the Black Flood Dragon's defenses. He couldn't even touch Yang Kai's body, so how could he spare any energy to help Nansheng? Even if he had the strength to spare, he wouldn't be able to react in time. In the next moment, Nansheng felt as if his throat was being squeezed by an invisible hand, his heart-wrenching cries suddenly becoming stuck in his throat. Xiang Chu, who was standing not far from him, stared at him in amazement, his eyes trembling violently. He found that his big brother Nan's eyes had lost all light and his vitality was rapidly dissipating. Xiao. A brilliant light burst out from Nansheng's head and returned to Yang Kai's hand, transforming back into the small sword. Nansheng fell on his back, his eyes wide open, as if he had died with a grievance. His eyes had lost all light. Everyone present was dumbfounded. In the field, with the exception of a few powerful immortal ascension boundary masters, no one had been able to clearly see when this small sword had attacked. Even the masters who had seen through the mysteries of this soul-type artifact couldn't help furrowing their brows as they secretly felt apprehensive. They didn't know if they would be able to resist Yang Kai if he used this soul-type artifact to deal with them. Soul-type artifacts were different from ordinary artifacts. They were driven by one's divine sense and would only damage one's soul and knowledge. The power they could display was directly linked to the strength of the cultivator's spiritual energy. The stronger one's spiritual energy was, the greater the effect they could display, and vice versa. Although this small sword was a heaven-grade top-rank artifact, its grade was not low. If one didn't have a powerful divine sense, it wouldn't be able to display its full power. After seeing such a blow, the two blood warriors who were fighting Tang Yuxian no longer dared to hesitate and quickly retreated to protect Yang Zhao. They were afraid that Yang Kai would use this move to deal with their second young lord, and if that happened, the situation would become even worse. Tang Yuxian didn't pursue and instead stood in front of Yang Kai, panting slightly. The black flood dragon coiled around its body, its huge triangular head and slender eyes staring at Xiangchu in the crowd. A cold light flashed in its eyes. Nansheng's sudden death had scared Xiangchu out of his wits, only now realizing that Yang Kai really had the ability to kill him under Yang Zhao's protection. His heart was filled with fear as he looked at Yang Kai in horror. He didn't know if his death would come in the next moment. He wanted to look for experts who could protect him, but when he looked around, everyone was far away from him, their faces filled with fear. Many of these people used to be brothers with Xiangchu and Nansheng, drinking and having fun together and talking about the future, but now, they all avoided Xiangchu like a viper, afraid that they would be implicated by him, leading to them being targeted by Yang Kai and dying without knowing why. The ways of the world were like drinking water. Only the person who drank it would know whether it was hot or cold. Xiangchu suddenly felt a little disheartened and cynical, his expression becoming ferocious as he sneered at those who were avoiding him. Yang Kai slowly opened his eyes and gripped the small sword in his hand, his brow furrowed as his yuan qi fluctuated. Hong long long. A muffled sound of thunder rang out from the sky, like the beating of war drums from the depths of the earth, causing everyone's eardrums to tremble and their hearts to pound violently. As the wind blew, the dark clouds that covered the entire War City became thicker and thicker. Gradually, War City fell completely into darkness, without a trace of light. In this pitch-black darkness, no one knew what was happening. All the onlookers were whispering to one another as they stared at the dark clouds gathering in the sky, unable to help feeling anxious and uneasy. Somewhere, Meng Wuya, who had been quietly observing the situation with his hands behind his back, suddenly had a gleam in his eyes as he stared at Yang Kai, who was standing motionless in place, with a look of expectation on his face. Master! Xia Ningchang gasped for breath, running out of the house at some point. Meng Wuya glanced at her and put a finger to his lips, shushing her. Xia Ningchang couldn't help shrinking her neck and asking softly, Master, what happened to junior brother? I don't know, it looks like he's become the demon race, but he's still conscious. I don't know what happened to this bastard, he's really a troublemaker. Meng Wuya said with a depressed expression. Since coming to War City, he had helped clean up Yang Kai's mess many times. Although he had repeatedly said to Yang Kai that he wouldn't intervene in the inheritance war, when Yang Kai was facing some difficulties, he had no choice but to help. Then is he all right now? Xia Ningchang's beautiful eyes filled with worry as she asked anxiously. He should be fine. Meng Wuya slowly shook his head, a strange look appearing on his face. Not only is he all right, but looking at him right now, it seems he's about to break through. He's about to break through. Xia Ningchang cried out in surprise and covered her mouth. She raised her head to look at the thick black clouds in the sky. Feeling the destructive power hidden within the clouds, she couldn't help but turn pale as she suddenly realized, Master, you're saying that this is the phenomenon caused by junior brother's breakthrough? It should be. Meng Wuya was also shocked. There had never been a cultivator who had broken through to the immortal ascension boundary that would cause such a great disturbance. The world energy contained in these clouds was not something an immortal ascension boundary cultivator could withstand. Even at this moment, Meng Wuya was not certain he could withstand it. Can junior brother withstand such a baptism? Xia Ningchang panicked. Every time a cultivator broke through to a new great realm, they would cause some changes in the surrounding world energy, drawing in the surrounding world energy to baptize their body. During the process of baptism, a cultivator could absorb the surrounding world energy to strengthen their body. However, each cultivator had a different aptitude and physique, so during the process of baptism, the benefits they could obtain were also different. The better one's aptitude and physique were, the greater the benefits they could obtain. When Xia Ningchang broke through to the immortal ascension boundary, she had also experienced this process, but at that time, the amount of world energy she could draw in was less than a tenth of what she was now experiencing. This kind of world energy could no longer be called a baptism, it was called destruction. It's up to his luck, Meng Wuya said in a low voice, a trace of deep worry between his brows. Not to mention that his precious disciple was deeply in love with that bastard brat. If something really happened to him, his precious disciple would definitely be heartbroken. He actually liked that bastard brat quite a lot, so he did not want him to die early because of some accident. This brat could break through the shackles of this world and reach a higher level of mutant. Meng Wuya really wanted to see just how far he could grow. How could he break through at such a critical moment? Xia Ningchang was about to cry. There was clearly still a battle going on over there, but Yang Kai was about to break through and undergo the baptism of world energy. If he was disturbed by someone, the consequences would be unimaginable. Maybe he comprehended some mysteries during the battle. Meng Wuya sighed. Opportunities were things that could only be encountered, not sought. Yang Kai breaking through his shackles at this critical moment could be considered a blessing. Since the breakthrough was imminent, there was no way to suppress it, so he could only let nature take its course. After a pause, Meng Wuya said, "Don't worry, if there really is a moment of danger, this old master will not sit idly by." Xia Ningchang nodded gently, her pair of beautiful eyes turning towards the other side. Although there was no light in War City, for a powerful cultivator, they could still see some things. On the other side, Yang Zhao also suddenly woke up and stared at Yang Kai strangely, asking in a trembling voice, "Ninth brother, you're not about to break through, are you?" Yang Kai looked up at him, took a deep breath, and nodded solemnly. Tang Yuxian's expression shook as she suddenly felt a little uneasy. Yang Zhao laughed bitterly as he clenched his fists and ground his teeth. "Do you think second brother will let you break through and let you become stronger?" "I don't think so." Yang Kai shook his head. "If second brother wants to stop me, then stop me, as long as you can afford the price." Yang Zhao's expression became cold, his eyes filled with dread and hesitation. He couldn't make up his mind whether or not to start a full-scale war with Yang Kai here. With just him and the two blood warriors, it was impossible to stop Yang Kai. At this moment, he was already so terrifying. Once he broke through to the immortal ascension boundary, he would only become even more powerful. At that time, Yang Zhao may never be able to catch up to him. Right now was a great opportunity. If he didn't take it, Yang Zhao felt he might regret it for the rest of his life. Hong long long. The sound of thunder rang out again and Yang Kai's face changed slightly, becoming somewhat pained. Above his head, the rolling black clouds slowly rotated, forming a huge vortex. From this vortex, an irresistible suction force emerged and pulled Yang Kai's body upwards. A violent, destructive, cruel, bloodthirsty, and evil aura burst out from Yang Kai's body as he rose, filling the entire War City, as if the city had suddenly become an Azura purgatory. Of the tens of thousands of people in War City, about 60% of them suddenly felt their heartbeat accelerate at this moment as the evil energy hidden in their bodies began to stir. A moment later, Yang Kai came to a stop a few dozen meters above the ground, becoming motionless. The rotating black clouds began to rotate faster and faster. Suddenly, a jet black energy descended from the sky and slammed into Yang Kai's body. With a muffled groan, Yang Kai's body seemed to have become a bottomless pit, and in just a few breaths of time, this violent destructive energy was completely swallowed up. Yang Zhao's expression changed dramatically. He hadn't expected that Yang Kai would be able to cope so easily, his hesitant expression suddenly becoming firm. Xiang Chu's voice suddenly rang out. "Second young master, this opportunity will never come again." Nanxing had died right in front of him, so he was worried that he would follow in Nanxing's footsteps, but now that Yang Kai had actually broken through at this critical moment, he suddenly saw a glimmer of hope, so naturally he was eager for Yang Kai to give the order to attack. If Yang Kai didn't die, he would die sooner or later. He was a man of his word. Moreover, Yang Kai, who was currently in the middle of a breakthrough, probably wouldn't have any spare energy to deal with him. Seeing this clearly, Xiang Chu naturally urged loudly. Chapter 523. Qiu Yimeng and the others suddenly showed nervous expressions. They could all see Yang Zhao's restlessness. Moreover, under the influence of the evil energy in Yang Kai's body, it was difficult for Yang Zhao to adjust his mentality and properly deal with the situation in front of him. He had also been affected. As a young family young lord, he was the second eldest of the younger generation, but at this moment, his own achievements were far inferior to Yang Kai's, so he couldn't help feeling envious and jealous. This kind of negative emotion was magnified, causing Yang Zhao's eyes to become slightly red. "Second young lord, if you don't act decisively, you will suffer." Xiang Chu coldly shouted, striking while the iron was hot. Yang Zhao finally made up his mind and nodded firmly, waving his hand towards the sky and coldly shouting, "Stop him at all costs." The two blood warriors next to Yang Zhao were startled, both of them showing a slightly awkward expression. As one of them had said before, all the blood warriors in the blood hall were very grateful to Yang Kai, but at this moment, Yang Kai was ordering them to stop Yang Kai's breakthrough, causing them to suddenly not know what to do. Yang Kai was now at a very critical juncture. If he was really disturbed during his breakthrough and failed, it was very likely he would die, his soul dissipating. Even if such a result didn't occur, it was likely his achievements would be halted at the Yuan-Qi 9th stage. How could the two blood warriors bear to do such a thing? Both of them couldn't help feeling a little disgusted. However, in the end, Yang Zhao was still their young lord and their master, so when they heard this order, they had no choice but to act. "Do you think this old master doesn't exist?" The old demon snickered, watching the show from the sidelines. The old demon's blood had long ago been boiling with murderous intent, so when he saw Yang Zhao issue such an order regardless of the consequences, he immediately shouted coldly and joined forces with Tang Yuxian to block the two blood warriors. "Yang Zhao, you're insane." Qiu Yimeng was also enraged, and with a shout, she led everyone in the house into the sky and surrounded Yang Kai, vowing to protect his safety. "Whoever dares block me will die." Yang Zhao's expression became ferocious as he issued an order to his cultivator to attack. After the evil in his heart had been magnified, Yang Zhao had no choice but to resort to any means necessary. At the back of the crowd, Xiang Chu grinned wickedly as he stared at Yang Kai, who seemed to be unable to move and could only accept the baptism of world energy, a look of pleasure appearing on his face. Yang Kai looked at him coldly and said, "Nanxing is dead, you can't run away today." Xiang Chu couldn't help retreating a few steps before immediately steadying himself and shouting, "Yang Kai, don't try to scare me, you need to get through this difficult situation first." The cultivator on both sides had already begun to fight. Old Demon and Tang Yuxian had joined forces to not only resist the two blood warriors around Yang Zhao but also the dozen or so immortal ascension boundary masters in his mansion. Although Qiu Yimeng and the others were relatively few in number, they had gathered around Yang Kai to protect him, so for a short time they wouldn't be able to break through the enemy's defenses. All kinds of artifacts and martial skills blossomed, illuminating the Dark War city. Violent energy fluctuations filled the air as the offensive and defensive battle instantly began. Inside the tea house, Yang Wei shook his head with some pain. "Second brother has gone too far." Lu Qingyao also nodded gently. Although the inheritance war could be fought by any means necessary, this was Yang Kai's most critical moment. If an accident were to happen, It would affect him for the rest of his life. Saying so, Yang Wei slowly stood up and threw away his disguise, revealing his true face. Does eldest young lord want to take action? Lu Qingyao squinted at him and asked faintly. Yang Wei nodded. As the Yang family's eldest young lord, I'll take action. Saying so, his figure flickered and he took the blood warriors around him and rushed towards the battlefield. Lu Qingyao was stunned for a moment before suddenly laughing. Eldest young lord is really a gentleman. Yang Wei said that he would take action as the Yang family's eldest young lord, not as the young lord of the inheritance war, which meant that he was only acting on his own behalf this time. He could have mobilized the troops in his house and taken this opportunity to launch a sneak attack on Yang Kai's mansion or join forces with the cultivator in Yang Kai's mansion to attack Yang Zhao. But he didn't do so. Obviously he didn't want to take advantage of this situation, which was worthy of Lu Qinyao's praise. A moment later, Yang Wei arrived at Yang Kai's side. When she saw him appear here, Qiu Yimeng immediately became vigilant, coldly asking, "Eldest young lord, why are you here?" Yang Wei saw her suspicion and fear but didn't answer, instead just nodding to the blood warrior beside him. The Immortal Ascension Boundary 8th Stage Blood Warrior immediately rushed down and entered the chaotic battlefield. Qiu Yimeng couldn't help blushing slightly. "Many thanks for eldest young lord's help." Yang Wei simply nodded, not bothering to claim credit. This scene was also captured by Yang Kai's eyes and he couldn't help feeling a slight warmth in his heart, nodding to his eldest brother. The two brothers glanced at each other, understanding each other without words. Down below, Xiang Chu had been constantly provoking Yang Kai, trying to disturb Yang Kai's current state of mind. He didn't have the courage to rush up, so he could only use this despicable method to vent the uneasiness and anger in his heart. It would be best if he could destabilize Yang Kai's state of mind and cause him to fail his breakthrough. That was the scene he most desired to see. On Yang Kai's side, everyone's faces became ugly as they heard Xiang Chu's obscenities, but none of them could find the time to attack him, causing Xiang Chu to become more and more arrogant and unbridled. Yang Kai shot him a disgusted look before suddenly reaching out and taking out a small figure made of light blue hair and flicking it a few times. In the distance, among the crowd of onlookers, a petite woman wearing a black robe suddenly screamed, stretching out her hands and covering her forehead, looking towards the sky with an aggrieved and helpless expression. Up in the air, Yang Kai flicked his finger again. The woman no longer dared to hesitate and hurriedly rushed forward, shouting loudly, "I'm coming, stop." Hearing her exasperated voice, Yang Kai's movements also stopped. Seeing that he didn't intend to continue, Shui Ling took a deep breath, her eyes filled with anger as she ground her teeth. "You bastard, what do you want to do? Help me this time and I'll give this back to you." Yang Kai endured the tremendous pain and said while waving the small figure in his hand. "Really?" Shui Ling was overjoyed, looking at him excitedly and expectantly. Yang Kai waved his hand and tossed out the figurine made from her hair. Shui Ling snatched it up and hugged it tightly like it was some kind of precious treasure, unable to stop herself from laughing out loud. Ever since she had been tortured by this soul-capturing curse several times, Shui Ling had hated this thing to the bone and had always dreamed that one day she would be able to steal it from Yang Kai and regain her freedom. That was why she had stayed in War City, secretly looking for an opportunity. But after such a long time, Shui Ling had never found a suitable opportunity, not even daring to set foot in Yang Kai's house. However, she didn't expect that today's unforeseen event would allow her to easily achieve her wish. Shui Ling suddenly felt that the shackles binding her had disappeared as soon as the small figure appeared in her hand and she had regained her freedom. Solemnly taking the little doll into her chest and patting it lightly, Shui Ling finally calmed down. Tilting her small head, she stared at Yang Kai curiously, grinning meaningfully as she asked, "Aren't you afraid that I'll take it and run away?" "Do as you wish. Without your help, I won't have any problems. However, those who dare to fool me have never had a good end," Yang Kai coldly snorted. Shui Ling spat disdainfully, "At this time, you're still in the mood to talk big, humph." After pausing for a moment, she added, "But you're lucky you didn't misjudge me. This lady isn't the kind of person who goes back on her word." Although Yang Kai had tortured her many times, each time he had done so, he had only made her feel a little pain and had never injured her. What's more, while the small figure had been under Yang Kai's control for such a long time, if Yang Kai really wanted to do something to her, Shui Ling would have been powerless to resist. It was for this reason that Shui Ling realized that this man wasn't too hateful, he was only controlling her because he was afraid of her. "Speak, what do you want me to do?" Shui Ling asked. "Grab that man for me." Yang Kai glanced towards Xiang Chu from afar. "A piece of cake." Shui Ling giggled, and with a wave of her hand, a nearly transparent stream of water suddenly shot out. This stream of water was like a sentient rope, bypassing the chaotic crowd and accurately wrapping around Xiang Chu, who was still yelling incessantly. Xiang Chu was shocked and quickly pushed his Yuan Qi to resist, but how could he resist the methods of an Immortal Ascension Boundary 8th-stage cultivator? No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't sever the binding of this stream of water. "Come here!" Shui Ling shouted as she pulled Xiang Chu towards her. Xiang Chu screamed in panic as he was quickly pulled over to Shui Ling's side. "Be a good boy and don't move, otherwise I'll teach you a lesson." Shui Ling wrinkled her delicate nose, grabbing Xiang Chu's shoulder and tossing him over to Yang Kai. Her movements relaxed, as if she had just done something trivial. Looking at Yang Kai's indifferent face, Xiang Chu's face suddenly went pale as he desperately tried to escape. "Ninth young lord, please spare my life." Yang Kai sneered, "Regretting now? It's too late." Yes. From the dark clouds in the sky, another jet of black energy fell and blasted into Yang Kai's body. Under this violent energy, Xiang Chu, who had just approached Yang Kai, was immediately affected, his exposed skin quickly spreading a layer of black qi as his eyes bulged, as if a great force was about to erupt from his body. Walla. With a muffled bang, Xiang Chu's entire body exploded into a bloody mist, not even his bones remaining. The fierce battle suddenly paused as everyone stared at the bloody light blooming in the sky, none of them having expected that the Xiang family's young lord would die so miserably. First, Nanxing was killed, now Xiang Chu's body was also destroyed. Yang Kai had really done what he said he would do. Even Yang Zhao couldn't protect these two people. "We're even," Shui Ling said proudly to Yang Kai. Yang Kai nodded and slowly closed his eyes. With his breakthrough imminent, he didn't have time to pay attention to the outside world. At this moment, all he could do was endure the baptism of world energy and wait for the opportunity to open his knowledge sea to break through to the Immortal Ascension boundary. Chapter 524. After Xiang Chu was killed, the destructive energy contained in the dark clouds in the sky seemed to have been completely activated, and one after another, it continued to bombard Yang Kai, causing everyone to tremble in fear, wondering if the Yang family's youngest young lord would be able to obtain a new life in this baptism or be destroyed. Yang Zhao stared blankly at the sky and roared, "Big brother, are you also standing on ninth brother's side?" Yang Wei shook his head and coldly said, "It's not that big brother wants to stand on ninth brother's side, second brother, you've gone too far. Wake up and think about what you're doing now. In the inheritance war, there's nothing I can't do, of course I know what I'm doing." Yang Zhao coldly snorted. Yang Wei's face filled with disappointment as he bitterly said, "If you want to protect Nanxing and Xiang Chu from ninth brother, big brother has nothing to say, but if you want to ruin ninth brother's achievements, big brother can't just sit back and watch. I think, if it was ninth brother, he wouldn't have disturbed you while you were breaking through to a new great realm." Yang Zhao was startled, his crimson eyes becoming slightly sober for a moment, a look of pain appearing on his face, but soon it was replaced by a ferocious expression, replaced by one of incomparable madness. He couldn't stabilize his state of mind now. If he was sober, he might have realized something, but right now, the only thought in his mind was to defeat Yang Kai, driving all of his willpower. Kong. While the two brothers were talking, a loud explosion suddenly rang out. Accompanied by this explosion, the incomparable demonic qi once again spread out from Yang Kai's body. This time, it was even denser than before, making it even more difficult to resist. Under the influence of this aura, All the cultivators found it difficult to suppress the evil in their hearts, even the Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters. The old demon laughed wildly, shuttling through this demonic chi like a fish in water, his own strength suddenly rising to a new level. What's going on with this little brat? In the distance, Meng Wuya muttered to himself with a dignified expression. He had never known that Yang Kai had gathered so much demonic chi in his body, so where had his true Yang Yuan chi gone? That should have been the nemesis of this demonic chi. Is there any danger, master? Xianxia was so anxious that he was about to cry. Even though she was so far away, she was still affected by the evil energy. The light blue gem on her forehead was emitting a gentle light, dispelling the darkness around her. I don't know. Meng Wuya was also confused. His consciousness should be immersed in his mind right now. I can't control the energy in my body at all. This time he was promoted. Unlike the usual breakthroughs, this time it was a breakthrough to the mental wonder realm, which could open up the cultivator's own sea of knowledge. Right now, Yang Kai's consciousness was definitely in his mind. He couldn't control his body at all. He couldn't control the energy in his body, so the evil energy naturally surged out crazily. It's not good if this continues. Seeing that the battle was getting more and more violent and bloody, Meng Wuya's face showed deep worry. He wasn't worried about whether Yang Kai could safely survive this tribulation, but rather about what would happen to all the people in War City after they were affected by this evil energy. If the tens of thousands of people in War City changed their minds because of Yang Kai's promotion, he would become a sinner for all eternity. Spreading out his divine sense, Meng Wuya's expression became more and more gloomy. He noticed that in all directions of War City, there were battles taking place. These people may have nothing to do with the inheritance war, but after Yang Kai's energy drew out their evil energy, they couldn't control their emotions. They were also unable to control their emotions. Even the slightest bit of disagreement could lead to a huge conflict. At this moment, the entire battle seemed to be a bit chaotic, with flashes of light and swords everywhere and blood splashed everywhere. And as time went on, the situation would only get worse and worse, unless Yang Kai could take back the demonic chi into his body. A single person's promotion could actually affect an entire city. This was truly a legend. Meng Wuya was also deeply shocked. Suddenly his expression changed. Staring towards the center of War City, he sighed. They've finally been alarmed. Who were they alarmed? Xianxia asked eagerly. A few old fools. Meng Wuya took a deep breath and said, Disciple, you go back to the house first. I'm afraid it won't be safe here. I don't want to go back. Xianxia shook her head and looked towards Yang Kai's direction. Junior brother is still there. Go back. Meng Wuya looked at her. Don't worry, I'll bring Yang Kai back safely. Xianxia hesitated for a moment before nodding gently. Master, if you can't bring him back, disciple might as well die. Saying so, she rushed towards Yang Kai's house like a whirlwind. She knew that if she stayed, not only would she not be able to help Yang Kai, but she would also become a burden to her master, so she didn't dare to linger. Looking at her disappearing back, Meng Wuya smiled bitterly, really wondering what he owed Yang Kai for him to go to such lengths. In the distance, 8 figures flew towards Yang Kai. Meng Wuya sighed lightly and also flew over. These 8 figures belonged to the 8 great families above Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters, each of them 100 or 200 years old. Normally, they would sit in the Seal Temple and pay no attention to external affairs. Today, they didn't want to get involved in this conflict. Yang Zhao and Yang Kai's life and death battle had nothing to do with them. But now they couldn't sit still. The entire War City was covered in demonic chi, affecting everyone to some extent, forcing them to come forward to deal with this matter. The expressions of these 8 people were indifferent, but some of them seemed to have been disturbed by Yang Kai and were not in a very good mood. Flying not far from Yang Kai, the 8 people came to a stop. No one had noticed the approach of these 8 people, so when they suddenly appeared, everyone was startled. Enough! Yang Li Ting shouted faintly. With this shout, the cultivator from Yang Kai's and Yang Zhao's forces who were fiercely attacking each other stopped, as if there was some kind of magical power contained in this shout that forcibly stopped their movements. Yang Wei's expression became solemn as he quickly bowed. "Greetings, 8 seniors." Yang Zhao's eyes turned red as he quickly restrained the ferocious expression on his face, becoming docile as he also bowed respectfully. In front of these 8 people, he didn't dare act rashly. Lu Qingyao from the tea house also quickly flew out and took the initiative to greet them. Everyone behaved quite respectfully. Yang Liting glanced over at Yang Zhao lightly, his expression indifferent as he waved his hand and sent a burst of energy into Yang Zhao's body. Under the influence of this energy, Yang Zhao's eyes immediately regained clarity as he stared at everything in front of him in a daze, recalling his orders and actions just now, sweat dripping down his forehead. After waking up, Yang Zhao finally regained his senses. Unable to bear a trivial amount of demonic qi, how can such a person be qualified to become a young family young lord? Yang Liting snorted. Yang Zhao paled, lowering his head and cupping his fists. "I've disappointed Grand Elder." Yang Liting snorted and didn't even look at him. Yang Zhao couldn't help going pale as he felt ashamed. This kind of disregard made him feel tormented in his heart, and he couldn't help feeling that he really wasn't as good as his 9th brother. As soon as this thought appeared, Yang Zhao quickly dispelled it, afraid that he would be affected again. If that really happened, he would no longer be able to stand out in the Yang family in the future. "You're not bad." Yang Liting glanced over at Yang Wei and nodded gently. Yang Wei remained calm and said, "Grand Elder is overpraising me." Yang Zhao, for various reasons, had been affected by the demonic qi while Yang Wei had been able to maintain his composure. Naturally, Yang Liting was impressed. "This little girl is also not bad." The slightly chubby old man looked at Qiu Yimeng and smiled meaningfully. She was also one of the few people who had not been affected by Yang Kai. "My Qiu family's people are naturally not bad." Qiu Dao Ren's face showed a trace of pride. Qiu Yimeng's performance also made him quite satisfied. "Greetings, Grand Elder." Qiu Yimeng stepped forward and immediately asked, "May I ask what purpose these 8 seniors have in coming here?" As she spoke, her face was filled with nervousness. The 8 of them had always kept a low profile and didn't care about worldly affairs, but now they had suddenly appeared. It was obviously because of Yang Kai. At this moment, Yang Kai's state was also somewhat abnormal. The 8 great families and the ash-gray cloud evil land were like fire and water, especially the elders, who abhorred the devil race, so how could Qiu Yimeng not worry when they saw Yang Kai in his current state? Qiu Dao Ren's expression became serious as he said, "What do you want to do? You'll have to ask Brother Yang after all, this is his Yang family's fault." Qiu Yimeng immediately turned her eyes to Yang Liting. The latter didn't say a word as he stared at Yang Kai, who was being baptized by the violent world energy, his expression gradually becoming cold. Qiu Yimeng couldn't help feeling her heart clench as a feeling of uneasiness spread through her body. His expression right now was clearly one of extreme disgust, but Yang Kai was still a member of the Yang family, a junior of Yang Liting. If it had been anyone else in this situation, they would have long since been killed. "Old dog, you'd better not have any ideas about my young master, otherwise, this old master won't agree." The old demon seemed to not know the difference between life and death as he grinned towards Yang Liting. Everyone's expression changed. Someone actually dared to speak such nonsense in front of an above Immortal Ascension boundary elder. When they heard the old demon's words, all 8 of them turned to look at him at the same time, their divine senses instantly locking onto the old demon. The old demon's demonic qi burst out fiercely, resonating with the demonic qi in Yang Kai's body, causing everyone to feel as if the end of the world had arrived. "His demonic secret art, did he cultivate it with you?" Yang Liting didn't put the old demon in his eyes at all and asked lightly. "Heh, you're wrong." The old demon slowly shook his head, not showing the slightest fear. This old master's ability is not enough to teach the young master. His achievements are all his own. Your young family being able to produce a person like the young master is your blessing. You must cherish him. The future of your young family depends on the young master. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, We bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.